Start the webinar.
Welcome everybody to our webinar today, Money Mastery and Setting Yourself Up for Success in 2025. I can't believe we're talking about 2025, but we are here. My
That's
name's
crazy.
Katie. I know, it's nuts. My name's Katie Crismalley Marshall. I am the CEO of Profit First Australia and New Zealand, and I am joined by the team at Thriday. And Justin, if you'd like to intro yourself, please.
Yeah, Justin, Head of Growth at Thriday. Happy to be here, and thanks so much, Katie, for sharing all of your knowledge.
My pleasure. So what we're going to do today is run through the webinar, but Justin and I will jump in and have conversations about different things at different times as well, to show you how Profit First and Thriday really complement each other and how you can get even greater change in your business by using both tools. So let's get started.
Yeah, I think overall the goal, like at the end of financial year 2025, so in 12 months from now, you want to feel like that whole 12 months has been the easiest financial year for your business ever. It should just feel like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders and it's just seamless.
And I think it's a good point to make. We are so used to business being hard, stressful, wearing us down, working long hours. All of those things are very normal, but it doesn't have to be. If you're using the right tools in your business, you can look back over the last 12 months and go, oh, that was easy. It's not going to be easy 100% of the time. There still will be moments, but you're going to be able to look back and go, oh, I've got cash in the bank. I've been able to pay my bills. I've been able to pay myself. And you've actually enjoyed the business rather than, counting down the seconds for the financial year to finish, only to roll into the next one and repeat the same processes and get the same result. So one of the common financial struggles with businesses is that our expenses very easily blow out for a number of reasons, and this is different in every industry. And one of the things that we find is that we will pay all our bills first, and then if there's anything left over, we'll pay ourselves or put some money aside to profit. But what we also forget to do is focus on our expenses and make sure we know how much money we're actually spending in the business. Now, I always say with my clients, I don't believe in being frugal, stingy, tight, any of those things. What I do want to do and encourage all business owners to do is just have an awareness of what your expenses are so that you are spending the money in the right areas that are going to get you the biggest return. And some things, yes, they're expenses, but actually are going to save you time, build your team better, run your business more efficiently. So we have to remember to take a look at our expenses, not to kick ourselves because we've spent far too much money last financial year, but just to look at it and go, okay, what did we spend money on and how could we potentially do it a little bit differently in the coming financial year or coming weeks and months. And one of the things that we do in Profit First is we are looking at the typical formula where sales minus your expenses equals profit. So if there's anything left over, that's what is our profit. Now, just a point to remember here, when we're talking about profit in Profit First, we're talking about cash in the bank profit, not the paper profit on the bottom of your profit and loss statement that you get from your accountant, where often you'll look at that and it will say you've made a profit and you're not really sure where that money is because that figure on the bottom of the report doesn't equal the bank balance.
Yeah.
And often the difference between the bank balance and that report is very, very different.
Yeah, so the way Thriday works is actually cash accounting, right? So it works off cash in the bank and the tax is calculated off cash in the bank. It's not you have 17 invoices out and that amount is counted as an asset until they actually get paid, because some of them might not get paid. So we work off the same principle of cash in the bank is the system of record.
And I think it's this is a good point to remind everybody. We absolutely need our profit and loss and our balance sheet and so on, because we have to meet our requirements with the ATO here in Australia. We can't get around that. So we absolutely need those. But what we know is that if we run our businesses off purely those reports, then we're going to get ourselves into trouble, because often they are not up to date. Usually by a considerable amount of time. As Justin mentioned, sometimes they're actually not on a cash basis, which then means that the numbers aren't giving you a correct idea on what money is coming in and what money is going out. Whereas Profit First is cash in, cash out. Did I receive it? Have I spent it? And then Thriday works on that same principle as well. So you know exactly where you stand at any point in time.
Yeah.
And with Profit First, as I said, absolutely we need to have our tax accountants and our bookkeepers and so on, but they need to be using the right tools to give you the right information to be able to make quick decisions in your business. And if we just look at the numbers only, then we don't always get the best picture nor the best outcome, because at the end of the day, we're all human and we have certain habits and behaviors that, whilst many of us mean well, unless we work with those, we're going to have another financial year roll around where we look back and go, that wasn't great. But as we mentioned, if we keep doing what we've always done, we're going to get the same results. So it's time to upgrade our tools. So Profit First, many of you may be aware of Profit First. It was based on a book that Mike Michalowicz wrote, I think almost 10 years ago now actually. And it works on our human behaviors and how we work, and flips that formula so we focus on profit. Now, what I really, really like to highlight here as well is profit isn't just cash in the bank. Profit is purpose. Profit is choice. So we're not talking about profit being, the millions of dollars that large corporates make that never gets funneled down to the employees or anything like that. When we're talking about profit in Profit First, we're talking about the choices that it gives you, the choices that it gives you, your family, the choices it can give your team, the choices it can give you to follow any purpose-based goals you have as well. And it's about thinking differently and creating wealth for yourself, for your team, and for those other, areas that you might support as well, any sort of non-for-profit and that type of work that you might do as well. So it's really like to remind everybody here, profit isn't necessarily just about cash in the bank for you at the expense of everything else. That's the exact opposite of what we talk about and what we believe in Profit First.
Yeah, and I think I like the way Mike put it, was profit is your reward for taking the risk as the business owner and putting in all of the effort that you've put in. So you deserve to have that profit at the end of whatever period it is that you want to take that profit out and do whatever it is you want to do with it, right? And that might be, as Katie said, it might be paying down some of a loan just to take a weight off your shoulders, or it might be donating something to charity, or it might be giving some of your staff a bonus, or it might be taking your family on a holiday. It doesn't matter what it's for. It's yours to do with whatever you want.
And that's one thing as business owners, we're generally very bad at rewarding ourselves for that extra risk that we take being the business owner. Many of us may be taking a wage for the work we do in the business. And if you're not, we need to work on that as well, and Profit First can help you with that. But that additional risk that we take as being the business owner, this is where the profit distribution comes into it at Profit First. And as Justin said, it can be used for a number of different focuses, whatever is important to you. And that is different to everybody. And there's no right or wrong on that as well.
Absolutely.
So as I said, we don't want to change our habits, we want to leverage them. So as we all know, it is often very difficult to change habits. Yes, if we are very disciplined and we stick to it for, depending on which book you read, it could be 21 days, 3 months, whatever it may be. What we want to do is work with how we already look at our numbers and get a much better and more efficient result. And how we do that is by having the multiple bank accounts, which we'll get to in a moment. One of the other things that Mike talks about in Profit First is about Parkinson's law. So if, and you would have had this at some point in time, maybe numerous times, if you've got 3 days to get something finished and you've got an hour to get the same thing finished, more often than not, we can get that task finished in an hour and not in the 3 days. And these two graphs just kind of show you, like, if we've got an hour assigned for it, we could get it done quite quickly and we've got some time to spare. Or if you're a procrastinator, like many of us are, we'll do a little bit and then we'll leave it to the last minute. At the end of the day, Parkinson's law is just making the most and getting the most out of the short time that we have. And if we leave, example with our money, if we leave all our money in a bank account, all clumped together, it's very easy to just eat away at all of that and have nothing left. And we want to change that and make sure that we have the right focus.
Yeah, because you well and truly might be making decisions off of money that isn't actually yours. It's, kind of belongs to the taxman, but the taxman let you hold on to it for a little while before they actually ask for it. So being able to set that money aside on autopilot ideally is a bit of a game changer.
Huge game changer. And we always like to use the example of when you go to a buffet, no matter how disciplined you are, most people will eat far more food than they actually need. As opposed to if you go to a restaurant and you're served smaller portions on smaller plates, we will eat much less. And the same goes for our bank accounts. When we've got all our money in 1 or 2 bank accounts, it's very easy to just spend that money without really realizing how much we need for, GST or whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden we get to the end of the month or the quarter and there's not enough money in there. And then that's when we fall into the trap of having to get onto ATO payment plans and that type of thing. Whereas when we have multiple bank accounts and we have smaller amounts of money in each of those bank accounts for specific purposes, it makes it much easier for us to be able to determine, can we afford to buy this, this new tool or this piece of equipment or not? Do we have the money in the bank account for that or not? Rather than seeing a large bank balance and thinking, oh, we've got the money there, but forgetting about all the other things that we need to pay later on in the month and the quarter.
And tell us, Katie, traditionally, banks haven't been super supportive of this, right? Like setting up multiple bank accounts to implement Profit First can be pretty difficult, right?
Yeah, and before I had my own businesses, I was a financial planner and I worked for one of the big 4 banks. Traditionally, in my experience, banks aren't very forward thinking around these types of things. At the end of the day, they have to make money as well. So they want you to have credit cards, loans, overdrafts, those types of things. So when you go into a bank typically and ask to open multiple bank accounts, it is usually quite a process. Firstly, because the person who's opening them for you often will ask you 101 questions as to why you need all of these and try and talk you out of that. And also it's just time consuming if you have to go to the branch. On some occasions you can open them online depending on the bank, but it is a difficult process. And that's why I say to my clients, I'm like, unfortunately, at the moment, this is our only option. We have another amazing option coming very, very soon for many of my clients that will make this part of the process of opening the bank accounts. How many minutes are we talking, Justin?
You can literally, the best has probably been 3 minutes to onboard and then like 30 seconds to click the Profit First link, which opens up all of the Profit First accounts and then sets up the recommended allocations.
And when Justin first told me about that a little while ago now, of course, I thought that was a bit of a stretch. So I tested it myself and he was correct. It literally takes a few minutes. And because over the years, I've worked with so many clients who have had hours upon hours at the bank, going back into the branch, having to take different documentation and all these things happening, the thought of a couple of minutes and a few clicks of a button is a huge time saver, like massive time saver. It also gets you started quicker rather than having to go back and forth with the bank. Few clicks of a button and you're ready to go, and you can start Profit First within 5 minutes.
Yeah, because one
And
of
so
the big
that's a
things about
huge
Profit
game
First is
changer.
making it a habit, right? And staying, I guess, compliant to the process,
Mhm.
because it's not going to work on its own. Like there's still effort and sort of thinking that you need to do to make it work. Not that it's hard or not that it's time consuming, but making anything easier is always going to be a win.
Mm. And again, we're humans. We like that quick win. We like that reward. We did this thing and oh, great, they're open now. The thought of going to the bank or opening accounts online, it's not super fun and super exciting for most people. And then it gets dragged out, and then we lose a bit of momentum, and then we focus on something else. And so, having that option to open bank accounts within a few minutes, we get the quick win, we can get started, we can make that habit happening so much quicker. And again, who doesn't want to get some time back? Like, I
Mm,
don't want to be wasting time in a
absolutely.
bank at all. So when we're talking about Profit First, we are talking about multiple bank accounts, as we were just mentioning. And the reason for the multiple bank accounts is because it makes it easier to see where you are. Now, for those who haven't heard of Profit First before, often this seems like a little bit of a crazy idea. How can having multiple bank accounts make it easier? Like, what about the bookkeeping? What's that going to do for my accountant? Like, that's going to take so much extra time. When you have everything set up correctly, running Profit First in your business should literally add no more than 30 seconds worth of reconciling to your bookkeeper or to your bookkeeping process, and it won't add any time to your accountant. So if you have started to do it yourself and it's taking you longer than that to reconcile your transactions every week, then please reach out to a certified Profit First professional, because they will very quickly be able to show you how to set it up so that it is a quick and easy process. So multiple bank accounts actually make it easier. And we start with the core bank accounts here we have. So firstly, income account. As it says, all your income is paid into there. No bills are paid out of that account. Your income sits in that account. We then, in this example, would put 5% into your profit account. So again, profit comes first. We're telling ourselves that running a profitable business is most important, and that is why we are putting that profit percentage aside. We're then going to put a percentage into our owner's pay account, because if you aren't paying yourself for the work that you're doing in your business, as of now, really need to focus and have a look at why that is happening. Because we need to be paying our bill. We need to pay ourselves. We have personal bills that we need to pay. We can't prop up the business. And so putting money aside for our owner's pay is the first step to do that. In the owner's pay account, we would also allow an allocation for your superannuation and potentially your PAYG. Again, this is the standard framework. Depending on your situation, your business type, this will be customized to work best for you. And so this is just an overview of the standard bank accounts. We're
Yeah.
then going to put tax aside because we don't want to get in trouble with the ATO. Too many people get caught with surprise tax bills, and I don't like surprises, and I especially don't like surprise tax bills. And a large portion of clients come to me when they get a surprise tax bill. It's left over from last year. Here's your surprise for this year, and we're going to actually get you to pay some tax in installments along the way. And it just makes for a very sticky situation. So putting tax aside is critical. And again, depending on your type of business and the industry you're in, we would customize that. I would also, for most of my clients, have a GST account and put that away separately. I always joke I don't like to do calculations, which seems crazy for somebody who has only ever worked in the financial space. But I want to know that my GST is in my GST account. I don't have to think about it. That my profit is in my profit. That my owner's pay is in my owner's pay. That my tax is in my tax. And then what's left over is in my expenses account. And that's what I've got to pay the bills of the business. Now, sometimes when you start profit first, you may not have enough money in that expenses account to pay those bills. That is not profit first not working. It's profit first working. It's showing you that your business is not profitable. If you can't put a little bit aside for profit and pay yourself and put the tax aside, then it's not profitable. And I always say this is a positive that you can see that it's something's not working, because then you can troubleshoot and work out what area you need to focus on to be able to make the business profitable. So I always like to highlight that you probably won't have enough money there, but that's your push, that's your encouragement to then get resourceful. Have a look at your expenses. Have a look at, are you sending invoices out on time? Or, is there a delay between your service or product going out and actually receiving that payment? Do you have clients who don't pay you on your payment terms? There's a whole range of things that a certified profit first professional will go through with you to work out where you need to focus to solve the problem in your business.
Yeah.
Where we default to as business owners is, I'll just work harder. If I just get this sale, if I just get this contract, if I just win this new client, everything will be okay. 95% of the time, that will make it worse. Because if you're not profitable now, you won't be profitable when you grow. And in fact, you will probably just make the problem worse. And that is definitely not what we want to do. So not putting your head in the sand and having a look at the business in using the mindset of, oh, it's an opportunity to fix the problem, rather than, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did this. It's such a disaster.
It almost gives you the gift of time, Katie, by showing you each week, fortnight, month that, like, if you don't quite have enough money in your operational expense account to pay your bills and you've got to dip a little bit into your profit account or whatever, knowing that this week is a hell of a lot better than knowing that at the end of the quarter when your BAS bill comes due, or knowing it at the end of the year when your tax bill becomes due, and all of a sudden you've got to go, what did I do last year to make this time of year so stressful and so hard, when this literally week by week you can tweak, change pricing, send invoices out sooner, follow up invoices faster, all of that kind of stuff. You can really think about sort of week by week, rather than, oh my God, how am I going to fix my business now?
Exactly. And again, it comes back to that we are able to be proactive rather than reactive. So if you're doing allocations on a weekly basis, for example, and you can see that you don't have enough money in your expenses account, then you have the opportunity to make some changes now that will improve that problem, rather than, like you say, get to the end of the year and then having to think back over 12 months, what happened, why did this, could we have done, not really sure. This allows you to test and measure the changes much, much sooner than you would if you weren't running profit first.
Absolutely. And, traditionally, a lot of this stuff is done manually, and of course you can still do it manually, but our philosophy at Thriday has been automation plus control. So we're able to actually automate the distribution of all of these funds into their different accounts, either immediately as soon as the money hits your revenue account, or even on a set date after the money hits your revenue account. And that distribution means that you could come in either each day or each week and at a glance see exactly how much is in your profit account, your owner's pay, your operational expense account, etc. I'll just show you quickly what it looks like for those that haven't seen it. Okay. Let me know if you can see that.
It's just starting to share now. Yeah, there you go.
Great. So this is what an allocation looks like. So I'm in my revenue account at the moment, and you can see all of the allocations that I've got set up. 100% of the allocations have been utilized, and I've got 5% going to profit, 35% to owner's pay, 35% to operational expenses. GST is paused at the moment, but 10% going there, and 15% going to tax. And this is set up to execute immediately as soon as money hits this revenue account. But I can edit this and change when I want it to happen. So I can schedule it each week on a Friday, or however I want to do it, basically, as per the Profit First recommendation on the 10th and the 25th of each month, if you're a real routine sort of person. So I can do it any way I like. So automation plus control.
And I think that is so important, the control piece as well. So I love automation. I love being able to use whatever tools we have to make our lives quicker and easier. Let me just get my screen back as I talk. And the automation piece, why do we need to do things where we could have a tool that's going to help us do that quicker and better? It just makes sense to be able to have those pieces in place. I always use the example, you know, if you're building a house, nobody's digging out the piers with a shovel anymore. Like, we're getting a machine in to do that. And whatever industry you are in, there would be something similar, that how they did it even a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, things have progressed. And it's the same with this as well. Let's move away from the requiring more input from us, use the tools, so then we have the information there to be able to then have the control, make the decisions around the business and what we can do from there. So let me just share my screen again.
Giving you time back. That's what it's all about.
And consistency.
Absolutely.
Like it's quicker for us, but it's consistent. Humans, we're unreliable people generally, for the most part. You know, we can be consistent for a period of time, and then life happens, something happens, and we get kind of, you know, distracted or whatever else it may be. Running profit first in your business, I always talk to my clients about, you know, do you want to travel? Do you want to buy investment properties? Like, what are all those fun things that you want to do from a personal perspective that your business can help you do? And they're great and they're exciting and they're much nicer to talk about. But realistically, where this really comes into play is when things don't go to plan and we have life events happen that are completely unexpected, that just, you know, knock us for an absolute six. And I know from my own experience with family members being quite ill for a number of years, having profit first in my business saved my business. I wouldn't have one of my businesses that I have today if it wasn't for profit first, because everything was set up. This automation piece wasn't around then. It would have been amazing if it was, but it meant I could take 5 minutes to do my allocations, do the transfers, and get a quick glance of where things are, what I needed to pay, and what I had to do. And as I said, whilst I love talking about the fun stuff, it really, really is life-changing when life doesn't go to plan.
Absolutely.
And you can't put a price on that. You can't put, like, the amount of energy that saved me during that time. Like, I just can't even put a number around it. It was absolute game changer. The other thing we do in Profit First is we talk about removing temptation. So if you are the type of person who will see some money accumulating in your profit and your tax account, in your normal bank account, and will be tempted to steal it to pay for bills, do other things with it, instead of having a look at your expenses and seeing if you need to cut them or change them or those types of things, then we always say remove temptation. So in Mike's book, he talks about opening the profit account and the tax account at another bank that you don't use all the time. So then it's out of sight, out of mind. There's various ways that we can do that here in Australia. Yes, you could have another bank. With some banks, you can hide the account so you can't see them. And for many people, you can just have them all at the one bank and have the self-control to know you're not going to touch those accounts. So there is variations of how we can do that. But if you're the type of person who knows you might be tempted, let's take it out of out of sights.
Yeah, we're looking at a feature where you can lock your profit account for a given period of time, and then we make it difficult to unlock that.
And that's it. Again, it's like customizing the tool to work with how we know humans will behave.
Yeah.
And interestingly, when I first read Mike's book and it said, put it out of sight, out of mind, another bank account, eventually you just kind of forget about it. At the stage in my business when I started implementing profit first, the thought of being able to forget about even a dollar being elsewhere seemed completely ridiculous because I needed every cent I could have at that point in time. But when you do have it out of sight, out of mind, you do forget about it because you're like, I've put that over there for profit or for tax, and you only touch it once a quarter. So being able to have that function within Thriday will be super helpful for those who need it as well.
Mm.
And as we've mentioned a number of times, it's about getting into that habit and implementing a rhythm. Now, depending on your business, you may do your allocations weekly, you may do them fortnightly, you might stick to Mike's 10-25 rule that he has in the book. You might be the type of business that you only get income once or twice every 3 or 4 weeks, or it might be lumpy and inconsistent. You could do your allocations when you get those payments, but it's about a rhythm. So your rhythm could be weekly, fortnightly, 10th or 25th, or it could be when I get a payment, even if those payments are irregular. It's that payment comes in, that's the rhythm. Great, do the allocations. Getting into the habit of doing this, and I always say, set a time in your calendar, repeating same day, same time with a reminder, and that is the most important appointment in your calendar for that week. Do not change it, do not move it for anyone. I don't care if somebody who is going to offer you a massive contract wants a time, at your 9 o'clock from 9 to 9:30 on a Friday morning, you let them know, great, I can see you at 9:30. That'd be wonderful. Do not move that. We need to get into that habit and showing ourselves that it is critical and most important that we keep in that rhythm. The sooner we stick to a rhythm, the easier it becomes. If we start, that makes it much, much harder. Yeah. So that's always one of the things that I suggest to clients. Just stick to it, even if you know that you're not going to have enough money in the expense account to pay your bills. Do your allocations first. Step 1, do your allocations. Step 2 is, how am I going to pay my bills? And you think about them as 2 separate steps, but you always do that first step, irrelevant of there's a $10 coming to your account or $10,000 coming to the account. And profit first is flexible.
We can't see your screen, by the way, Katie, if you just want to, still sharing slides.
Stop sharing. Okay, let me just go back here and reshare again. Okay, let me stop and restart again.
Sorry, we've got Nadine's got her hand raised. If anyone wants to ask any questions, just jump into the chat and we'll sort of do them as we go. Let me see.
Okay. Can you see that one now?
Got it.
Awesome. So as I said, Profit First is flexible. It is a framework that we customize for you and your business. Now, when I say customize, that doesn't mean that we just do 1 or 2 little pieces and then say we're doing Profit First. There is the standard framework that we use, and then we customize the additional steps depending on your business, your industry, and so on, because obviously not every industry is exactly the same, and we want to make sure that it works well for your specific industry. So I also, the majority of my clients in my coaching business are trainees. That's my niche. That's who I've worked with forever. So I have a number of additional bank accounts that I recommend for them based on how they work and what they need as well. So it isn't just open these bank accounts and it is what it is. The flexibility is there, and making sure you customize it to work for your business and for your industry is key. And the best people to help you with that is somebody who's certified in Profit First. And I talk about this 1,000 times. If you need your house rewired and you call the handyman in to do it, who says, yeah, I rewired my own home and, I worked as a labourer with an electrician a while ago, they may be able to do it. But I'm not trusting somebody who is not qualified to rewire my house. I don't want my house to burn down. I want the job done properly. With Profit First, many people can read the book and implement themselves and do an amazing job. And that is awesome. And we get, people reach out to us all the time to tell us their success stories, which is great. But there is also a large portion of business owners who either don't have the time or need somebody to step them through and help them. Then that's when please make sure you reach out and you're working with somebody who is certified in Profit First, because they will be able to customize it much, much quicker and better for your business, because they have the initial training, the ongoing training, and the experience to know how to customize it for you. And yeah, I can't stress that enough.
And I
And the
think,
criteria there, I always,
sorry, Katie, for a lot of people that might, like some people might be in a little bit of a rut or a hole, getting a helping hand can get you out of that hole a lot faster, because these guys have been there, seen it, done it all 1,000 times with a bunch of different clients. So yeah, they kind of know what works and what doesn't.
And it's the little things. I find it's the smallest things that make the biggest difference to our clients. And often for us, it doesn't seem like a game changer. And the client will come back and go, oh my gosh, that one tweak that you said to do for us saved us so much, X amount of time. Or it meant that we can do it consistently because it doesn't feel like a chore anymore. So getting it set up correctly makes all the difference. And when we talk about Profit First, we know that we can't wave a magic wand and make everything amazing in your business within a couple of weeks, or sometimes, it's much longer than that. And so what we do is we have a rollout phase. So we look at, where are you now? What are your percentages? And again, there's a whole assessment and so on that we do on your business to work out what those percentages should be for you to start with. And then we have different stages of how you can work towards reaching your target allocated percentages, we call them, your TAPs. And so it isn't just a implement today, by next month everything's amazing. It varies time-wise depending on the size of your business, where you are financially at the moment, and again, but it comes back to that, getting in that rhythm and sticking to the plan, because before you know it, we're this time next year looking back going, where did that 12 months go? And you're 12 months down the road of having Profit First implemented correctly, and you'll see huge changes in that time frame. Now, one of the most fun parts, I guess, all of it is fun for me, but for many people who numbers aren't their thing, the quarterly profit allocation is a time to celebrate and see how far you've come. So initially you may only start with a 1% to your profit account. That is perfectly okay. And at the end of the quarter, then you've got that money in that profit account and you get to decide what you're going to do with it. Now, again, depending on your goals and what you want to achieve, it might be making additional lump sum payments to pay off debt sooner. It may be putting some money aside for a rainy day. If it hits the fan, you've got some cash aside to help cover it. And a portion of it should always come to you personally to be able to do with it what you choose. If it's, if your first profit allocation is $50, you might be able to go out for lunch, and it will grow over time. But having specific goals around it make it easier to stay on track, and then also allows you to, at the end of the quarter, great, I've got $5,000 there. I said I wanted to put 90% of that to pay down debt, and I wanted to take 10% myself. Do I still want to do that? Yes, great. And then you do the transfers and you reset for the next quarter. And again, how that profit allocation is distributed depends on what your goals are and what's most important to you. And I think it's really important to remember that what's important to you may not be the same as the next person, and that is totally okay. What you want out of your business and what the next person wants out of their business could be very, very different. And we don't have to compare ourselves here because it's
Yeah.
about what you want from your business and how you're going to use that allocation yourself.
Yeah, I've got an interesting comment in the
And then
Q&A, Katie. It says, I found that I had to increase my tax to 30% to ensure that the correct amount the ATO is invoicing when I submit my BAS, which is zero. I work in a non-GST industry. So I guess that's just sort of, I guess, proof that different industries have different needs, and you need to tweak things to match what you're doing when it comes to profit first.
exactly. And so the allocation percentages that we that are in the book and that we use as a framework are that they are hundreds of thousands of businesses of different shapes and sizes and their averages. Some businesses will match to those perfectly. Some there'll be a variation either side. And this is a perfect example. Depending on your industry, your business type, you will have to tweak the percentages. But again, we're tweaking, we're not just completely changing. And particularly when we're talking about the tax percentage, all of my clients are told consistently that you need to be having a conversation with your accountant at least once a year to have a look at what that percentage should be based on your individual tax situation. And so if the table tells you 15% and you need 30, great, we would know that because we would ask you to ask your accountant what that percentage looks like. And if your accountant can't give you a set figure, then we would have a starting point and we would check in over the year as well to see how we're tracking. We would encourage you to get your tax done ASAP so we know what that figure is, and we would constantly be looking to adjust that because,
Yeah,
as I said, tax is the big issue.
absolutely. Yeah, the way Thriday works is that we ask for your business type as you come in, as you onboard, and based on that business industry code, we kind of set up the chart of accounts and categories in the background. And then as your income's coming in and your expenses are going out and you're saving your receipts, as long as you're just double checking that they're sort of correct in terms of their GST calculation at zero, then you'll see that tax calculation in real time. And if that tax calculation, so it'll show you the aggregate tax that you should have set aside. If that's off a little bit from your automated allocations, which is the 15%, then you can tweak that percentage or move a little bit of money in or out of the tax account as you see fit. So that's how that works.
Yeah. And again, you've got that information much quicker than how things have been done historically. So you can make the changes throughout the year rather than financial year finished, 9 months later, you're getting your tax done and you get the surprise tax bill.
Absolutely.
And as we touched on before, automated fund allocation. I'll hand this one over to you, Justin.
Yeah, so that's what I showed before, basically. It's pretty straightforward to set up. You literally, you can do it as soon as you onboard to Thriday. You go into settings and then accounts, and you can click the profit first link. It'll literally set up all of the profit first accounts and then have the allocation percentages that are sort of the rule of thumb percentages set, and you can change them if you want to. Probably best bet if you're new to this just to leave them as they are for now. And then, as I said, as money's sort of coming in and going out of Thriday, and all you need to do is save your receipts, and those receipts will be automatically reconciled to the transactions, automatically categorized, automatically assigned a chart of accounts, which is what enables the automation of the tax calculations. So our allocations feature is set percentages, the same way Profit First works. But if the tax calculation is different to the percentage that you have set, we'll show you exactly how much tax you should have set aside at any one point in time. And, that should match the amount of money in your account. But it's super, super easy to see every time you log into Thriday. You can see your month cash flow, and you can see exactly how much tax you owed at any given time.
And if you're working with a certified profit first professional, they will help you with those percentages and make sure that they've done an assessment. These are the percentages that are where you are at the moment, and could be updated for that stage that you're in
Yeah.
business as well.
Yeah. A couple of
Oh, then
questions here, Andre. How do I know when to do quarterly reports? I'm a new business in video production as a partnership. So we currently can't onboard partnerships, but when we can, if you're registered for GST, we'll actually alert you when your BAS is due and show you how much BAS you need, or show you how much GST you need to pay, or whether you're going to get a refund, etc. But generally, it's your quarterly reports come in at the same time every year. So you could even put that in your calendar, couldn't you, Katie, when those reports are generally going to be due?
exactly. Again, it's all about automation. If you need a reminder for anything, I live and die by my calendar. It tells me what I have to do when I have to do it. So then I don't forget these sorts of things as
And
well.
and generally, what are the dates, the quarterly BAS dates throughout the year?
So the end of each quarter, so 30 June is obviously the end of the last quarter, the end of September, end of December, end of March, sorry. And then depending if you lodge your BAS yourself or if you have a BAS agent or an accountant do them, the due date will vary. My suggestion to my clients is do and lodge your BAS as quick as you can after the end of the period.
Yeah.
The reason why people wait and leave it to the last minute to lodge is because they don't know how much they owe and they usually don't have enough money to pay it. So they leave it to the last minute and then go, we have to do it, and do it. When you're running profit first and using something like Thriday, then you're going to know, the first after every quarter exactly where you're at,
Yeah.
and there's no reason why you couldn't have it done and dusted quite quickly. We don't need to delay these things.
Yeah. And the other question here is 30% for taxes too much? And I think the answer is it kind of depends on the industry that you're in and how your business functions. But generally, 15% to set aside for tax is a good rule of thumb.
And I think it's really important to, when we talk about tax, to remember that there's multiple different types of tax that we are required, depending on our business type and so on, to hold and give to the ATO. So particularly if you're new, understanding that, GST, if you're registered, if you have employees, or if you're paying yourself through payroll, PAYG would be applicable, and then the tax on the business when it makes a profit, and then you could also have pay-as-you-go installments. So there's a number of different tax options. My suggestion is always speak to your tax accountant and just ask them to run you through the different tax types that you may pay in your business. Keep in mind that sometimes accountants are great at tax accounting, not always super great at explaining these things sometimes. So being comfortable with asking them to explain that again is my biggest tip. Once you understand what the different tax types are, you're not going to get caught out thinking, oh, I put tax away for this. Well, how come I've got this bill here? Oh, hang on, I didn't realize that that's a different tax. And as Justin said, it will be very dependent on your business and your entity type and a number of other different factors as well. But having a really good chat to your tax accountant, particularly at the beginning of business, is just an absolute game changer. Awesome. And then, as Justin had mentioned, the allocation features, and then this is the app. So it can all be done via app or desktop as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Which is awesome. I do all my allocations on my phone as well. It's easier, I find.
Yeah, if you want to do it manually, the app is fully functional, obviously. And, the website works like any other banking application that you've used.
And at the end of the day, as I said initially, business doesn't have to be hard and stressful. And have this financial black cloud over your head all the time. But you don't just all of a sudden wake up one day and have a business that is financially really healthy. It takes time and effort and sometimes, investment in money sometimes, and investment in your own time as well, to set these tools up and get them running, and as well as educating yourself around what you need to do and when, so that you can make better decisions. Because waiting, this time next year, if you haven't taken any steps, nothing is going to change. Usually it will be the same, if not worse. What I also like to remind everybody with Profit First is sometimes you could read the book or listen to the book, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. It feels like there's a lot of steps to be able to implement everything all at once. And if you're a general standard busy business owner who doesn't have a lot of time, the book kind of gets put to the side, and we're going to get to that. And what I always encourage you to do is you can just take one step, and that might just be opening a GST account or opening your profit account. You don't have to open all of the accounts all at once. Whilst that is the quickest way to get on track, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can just take little steps, because again, if you take little steps throughout the year and we look back, you're going to be far further down the line than you would if you were waiting to find a chunk of time to be able to implement everything all at once. The education piece for me is really, really important for my clients, and there's so much information available to us now that we don't have to sit down for hours and hours on end, but we do have to make some time. And it may be finding a Profit First professional in your industry type who has a podcast. If you like listening to podcasts, have a listen to those. If you like to read, it may be not sitting down and reading Mike's entire book. It might be read a chapter a week. If you prefer to, if you're on YouTube and that's your preference, find a certified Profit First professional who is on YouTube and watch their content, and you will, Facebook, Instagram. There is so much content around for you to get you started, to be able to give you that understanding of the basics, and then being able to work with somebody certified will then just take it to the complete next level. But you don't have to do everything all at once today.
I think don't overthink it is the kicker, really. Baby steps, but at the end of the day, it's not difficult. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. It might be a slightly different way of thinking about how accounting has worked in the past, but once you get your head around that, it's very, very simple. And then it's all just about action and actually doing it and implementing it and being consistent, like Katie said.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest, comment I get from clients is, it's not as hard as I made it out to be. It's not. Again, as humans, we can sometimes overcomplicate things, and we build it up to be this, time-consuming 100-step process. And if we just get started, we very quickly realize it's not that time-consuming, and there's not as many steps as we think, and it is much, much simpler than what we have made it out to be in our head as well.
Absolutely. Any questions?
I'll just flick to this one whilst we're having questions as well. Put any questions you've got in the chat. What we do have here, firstly, a big thank you from us for taking the time out of your day, because again, we know time is precious, to be here with us. We have a Profit First 101 course. If you take a photo of that QR code, that is as it says, Profit First 101. Everything you need to get started in Profit First there for you. And then Thriday, Justin, I'll let you talk to your plan.
Yeah, so normally the annual plan is $299, but for webinar attendees, we can do that for $199. And, our goal is to save you guys as much time as we possibly can. And, the average small business owner spends 6.5 hours a week managing financial admin, right? Which is crazy. So with Thriday, the goal is to bring that down to 30 minutes, and the combination of Thriday plus Profit First is really a no-brainer, and it just leads to more successful businesses, and we've shown that sort of time and time again.
And I think that's such a good point. It can be a really quick process, and we've freed up that time to do something else with. And that may mean that we're working a regular hour a week now, or it may mean that we can have a Friday afternoon off to go to our kids' event or spend time with family or whatever it may be. Being able to get back such a large chunk of time is an absolute game changer. And I'm fairly certain nobody would say no to getting more time back. And particularly
Exactly.
if numbers aren't your thing. I mean, I love numbers. As I said, I've only ever worked in the financial space. I do not want to be spending 6.5 hours of my time on my numbers. And I love them. So for most business owners, that's a long, stressful uh, amount of time that can be easily replaced.
Yeah, I hear this often, people calling saying, is Thriday right for me? I'm not a numbers person. How hard is it to learn? And you do not have to be a numbers person to have good numbers.
Exactly.
It just shouldn't be difficult. And that's why we created Thriday, because traditionally, you did need um, a lot of help from either accountants or bookkeepers to wrangle accounting software and connect bank feeds, to reconcile transactions, to create and set up chart of accounts, and to understand which chart of account was applied to which expense, etc. But that's all out the door. You can basically come in, and as long as income is coming in, expenses are going out, and you're saving your receipts, and you're talking to your profit first professional about how your business is performing and forward planning and all of that good stuff, rather than paying someone for data entry that you weren't quite sure how to do. It should just be that simple, which it now is, and it's phenomenal. So, got a couple of other questions here. Would the profit first mindset be divided differently for partnerships?
Not necessarily. And again, it really depends on what you want from the business. And then we would look at what entity you have. And, sometimes there's different labels that we would use for things depending on the entity. But the framework remains the same. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
what entity you are, the framework always remains the same.
yeah, and it might even be a case of you have your sort of portion, your partner has the other portion, and you sort of do profit first on your own. Do you know what I mean? Individually, because you might want to split things out a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't have to be different, and it doesn't have to be the same. Another good question from Samantha. I have a company and use Xero. Would Thriday replace Xero? And is it easy to change over to Thriday? Yes, yes, and yes. So super easy to switch over. It definitely is a replacement for Xero, and we will be able to onboard companies by the end of the year. So a little bit of a way off for that. I would love to be able to say you can do that right now, but yeah, when we can, it's going to be super easy.
And we will certainly let you know, both from our side and from Thriday's side when that happens, because that will be a game changer for so many of us as well.
Absolutely,
And I
absolutely.
think as well, on that, if you are thinking about changing and so on, you don't have to wait for that to happen to start profit first either. You can start profit first now, and then once companies are available in Thriday, then you can move that part of it over again. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing process.
100%. Yeah, yeah. You should never wait to start profit first.
No. And again, that's the biggest, the most common comment, apart from it's not as difficult as I thought it would be and as I made it out to be. And then straight after that, it's usually, why didn't I start sooner? I wish I
Ah,
started sooner. I'm
yeah.
like, yeah. Um, so yes, now is always the best time. Um, but yeah, don't wait.
It's just
Do it.
like going to the gym. 3 months from now, you don't want to be saying to yourself, why didn't I start 3 months ago? The
Exactly.
first 2 weeks might be a little bit more difficult than the last 2 weeks, but ultimately, life is going to be a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, awesome. Right, do we have
Amazing.
any other questions before we wrap up? Spot on time. Distribution day, Terry. So is that the same as the 25th? So distribution day would be the first of the quarter. So the quarter finishes, say 30 June finished, distribution day would be the 1st of July. Now, if you are going on a holiday on the 25th of June and you're using some of your profit distribution for that holiday, you can take it out of your profit account slightly earlier because you're going on that holiday. Again, I have it reoccurring in my calendar, 1st of the month. If that day falls on a weekend, then I will do it the Monday after. But again, we don't have to overthink it. If you do it on the 7th after the quarter finishes, or the 3rd, whatever date, always I would prefer within the first 7 days. I wouldn't leave it longer than that. But just, if you want to do it the first Thursday after the quarter finishes, great, do that. Pick your rhythm and stick to it. So the 10th and the 25th distribution Mike talks about in his book is the income all goes into the income account, and then on the 10th he does the allocations are done into the other bank accounts, and then again on the 25th of the month. Now they do that in America because they still write checks over there. So for the most part, so you write in a check, you're sending it, it's being received, banked, and so on. In Australia, some clients like to stick to the 25th. For myself and most of my clients, we do weekly. Again, it just depends on what rhythm works for you. If you're a builder and you get one invoice a month, then you do it when that invoice come in. So choose the rhythm that would work for you and your business.
Yeah. Alison, advising to bring numbers from Xero into Thriday. So obviously now, being the beginning of the financial year, is really the perfect time to switch over. We don't have the concept of bringing a whole bunch of historical data in from Xero to populate Thriday. It's just sort of start from scratch, but starting from scratch, if you're a quarter of the way through the year, you come into Thriday, you fill in your tax profile, you could create a manual balance for your total income for the quarter, and then a manual balance for your total expenses for the quarter, and that will bring you above or below the tax-free threshold, so all of your tax calculations are correct. And then it's just a matter of income coming into Thriday, expenses going out, and saving your receipts. So that's how to do it.
And again, a bit like now is always a good time. Yes, beginning of the financial year is great, the beginning of a quarter is great, the beginning of a month is great, but don't wait at the expense of spending more time and energy elsewhere when you could just change over.
Exactly. One of the, I see this a little bit, is the sunk cost bias, right? People are sort of set in their ways with working with Xero. They've got, a couple of hours in their calendar each week to do the manual reconciliation of receipts. And they've got this process that they know is kind of working for them. And even though there might be something way, way more efficient that sort of comes in, they feel like it's been that hard in the past that they don't want to change because it's still going to be that hard in the future. So if you get your head around that things will actually be easier doing it differently, and get rid of that sort of sunk cost fallacy into sort of doing things the old way, then yeah, the future is bright.
Excellent.
Any last questions?
Awesome. Is there any other final questions?
Amazing.
All right.
Katie, thank you so much.
Justin. Thank you, everyone. My pleasure.
Great to chat, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks.
See you guys. Bye.